You're not my mother. My mother doesn't have
buttons?
2009's Coraline is revered to be a dark yet inviting stop-action animated movie. Neil Gaiman, author of the original book, contributes much of its inspiration to artist Edward Gorey.
A is for Amy, who fell down the stairs. B is for Basil, assaulted by bears. C is for Clara, who wasted away.
The Ghastly Crumb Tinies is a perfect example of Gorey's macabre yet innocent art style. It's an art style that is dreadfully playful, horrific but inviting. It was an art style that inspired Neil to write a horror story for children.
Coraline in my head was a tiny little gory figure. You know, the biggest thing I felt that I gained from Gorey was that. Just the willingness to go, okay, I'm going to do a story for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. It's going to be scary.
So let's explore how Gorey's art style synergizes with Neil's horror story for children, both in structure and thematically. Much like Gorey's art style, the stop-motion animation of Coraline pulls in young viewers. As with older viewers, children walk into Coraline thinking it to be another happy-go-lucky animated film, but it's not.
1, 2, 3! What are you doing?
This is where the art style and themes of the movie perfectly line up. Coraline uses this art style to talk about dark themes and ideas directly to children.
See? It's supposed to be so deep. If you fell to the bottom and looked up, you see a sky full of stars in the middle of the day.
Once Coraline has the viewer lured in, for example, it talks about ideas like falling down into a well. You can imagine a live-action alternative to this scene, but it can be too gruesome for a child. The animation and art style of Coraline are leveraged to scare children successfully.
Don't wanna hurt you.
The animation throughout Coraline pulls young viewers in and exposes them to these darker themes. The animation is a sort of perfectly cruel bait and switch. Throughout the movie, Coraline also carries a sense that something is not right. It's this ambiguity that is the heart of the horror in Coraline. Ambiguity has always played a role in horror. Keeping the monster or threat physically hidden for effect, or questioning the motives of a particular character are popular horror tropes.
I know. He called me again last night at Tatum's house.
You see? Couldn't have been me. I was in jail. Remember?
And this is where we find the core of Coraline's horror, in its ambiguity.
And for one thing, in illustrating a horror story, you obviously cannot illustrate what's horrible.
No, that's right. If you do the telltale heart and show the man under the floor, then there's no use reading the story. So
there's no use reading the story.
For Gorey, keeping the horror as vague as possible was the ideal. Even when it comes to Coraline's real parents, we are unsure. The dad is overworked and looks like he is on the verge of death. The mom, similarly, is distracted by work and gives little warmth to her attention-starved daughter.
We made a deal. Zip it.
They do, however, show some growth by the end of the movie.
Mr. B's not drunk, Mom.
But the horror they display contrasts the warmth they should have as parents, and make the parents ambiguous. Coraline and Gorey also play with the information they do decide to give you.
Gorey's use of ambiguity, his willingness never to spell anything out. He will give you the pieces. It's almost as if he'll give you a crossword. And you have to fill it out yourself.
Coraline uses familiar bits and pieces for horror. For the young Coraline, her social circle of friends and family is the only thing she knows. The movie takes these familiar faces and gives them an uneasy sense of ambiguity, most notably with the button eyes of her parents and the silent, smiley kid next door. But this early scene of Coraline visiting the other world touches on a deeper sense of ambiguity from familiar faces.
Home?
We've been waiting for you, Coraline.
For me.
Yep. Wasn't the same here without you, kiddo.
And soon as you're through eating, I thought we'd play a game.
We love mud here.
Mud facials, mud baths, mud pies. It's great for Poison Oak.
How'd you know I...
This scene has familiar sights and sounds to Coraline, but with the feeling that something is off. Welcome home. Coraline, although young, understands that they only look like her parents, but they are not. She is taken back by other mothers' impatient eagerness and eventually becomes suspicious when other mother curiously mentions her rash. By the end of the scene, Coraline asks to return to her real home, leaving the imposters for the night.
I better get home to my other mother.
But I'm your other mother.
I mean my other mother. Mom number 1.
The scene makes the familiar to Coraline feel unfamiliar. It effectively creates a sense of stranger danger from those who should be the closest to her as a child. Edward Gorey's delightfully horrific art style helped Gaiman tell his scary story for children and the conceptualization of Coraline. Children and childhood at large are more often a protected relic in the horror genre, but that seems to be changing with interesting results.
No! Where are you? You selfish brat!
At the end of the day, the developmental years of childhood offers a treasure trove of material to the horror genre today. If you like this type of content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.